Hello, Milwaukee.
Hi, David Thiel coming at you from the Great Northwest. I provided game audio for most of the Gottlieb and Milestar games in the early 80s. My career in game audio might have been postponed for years had it not been for Ron Waxman.
In 1980, I was working in data services at an insurance company. A headhunter found out that I was an avid microcomputer hobbyist and got me an interview with the brand new Video Game Division at Gottlieb. I was interviewed by Ron Waxman, and he was very frank. "Why should we hire you? You're from an insurance company." I convinced him to let me have a week. I went home and created a simple space game. It had a shooter and it had bullets that went across the screen. I don't think I had hit detection yet, but it looked like a game. I got the job and I gave a 2-week notice at my company. During that 2 weeks, people worked on me, told me what a crazy thing this was to do. I started a waiver. On Friday, which should have been my last day, I called Ron and said, "Well, I've thought it over and I don't think I'm going to take the job." Ron said a couple things to me and then he basically just said in his way, "See you on Monday." And I showed up at Gottlieb. I became the sound programmer because when Tim Skelly's first game, which hadn't even been named yet, was starting to become mature, Tim knew it needed audio. I'd been talking to Tim, I respected him. He's the only one there who had ever had games produced. He had been very successful at Cinematronics. I had been a musician since high school. I'd played for 7 years full-time in rock bands and lounge bands, and when they said, "Gee, we needed sounds for this game," I raised my hand and said, "Hey, I'm your guy." Gottlieb's second game was first called Video Man, but because it was too close to Superman, became Protector. That was too wimpy, so it became Guardian. And then after a focus group, it became Argus. While Argus was never produced, it did start my quest to figure out how to write heroic music. Qbert sound fact number 1. The voices used in Qbert were created out of the frustration of trying to handcraft phoneme strings for the Votrax chip for Reactor. And this was done well before Qbert was a game. Qbert sound fact number 2. There is no swearing coded into Qbert. Virtually all of the Qbert speech is the result of sticking a series of random numbers into the Votrax chip, with 2 exceptions.
Hello, I'm Brenda.
And
Bye-bye.
Qbert sound fact number 3. Qbert's Pyramid Completion tune had been written years before by me as a jingle and submitted to a local car dealership. "You get a lot of great car when you buy one from us for the best deal on a new or used car." They didn't buy it, so it ended up in Qbert. To put all these sounds in perspective, let's talk about the soundboard for a minute. The Gottlieb soundboard used a microprocessor to create a stream of numbers that were converted into voltages, amplified, and sent to a speaker. Jim Weiss designed the board. It was first used in the pinball machine Mars God of War. There were not a lot of resources. 4K of EEPROM, a 6502 running at a little less than 1 MHz, 128 bytes of RAM, an 8-bit digital to analog converter, and from the Federal Screwworks, really, the SC01 Votrax. Mad Planets was the third game that Gottlieb produced. Kahn, the programmer-designer of Mad Planets, requested music playing when you weren't firing, something that's tricky to do when you can only run one program at a time, but we did it. Krull, as designed by Matt Householder and Chris Grubel, was a first for me in a couple of ways. It was the first game that I'd ever worked on with 2 designers, and it was the first game based on a license. I'm still making sounds for games and have created more than 20 audio packages for pinball machines since 2006. If you're interested, you can go to YouTube, search for David Thiel Pinball, and find some videos that have some of that work. Thanks! I really enjoyed talking to you today, and have a great time. Say hello to Jeff and Warren and Sam and Howie for me.